Who's on the telephone?
Dale Nations.
Wayne and Martha Pierce.
Okay.
In person, Bill Feyerabend.
And Frank Thorwald. We have a quorum. Is there any declared conflicts of interest? Hearing none, let's move on. Discussion and consideration of the minutes for the April 6th, April 18th, and May 18th and July 13th. Is there any comments or changes in those minutes that you have received?
No, I move for their approval.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. The minutes for April 6th, May 18th, and July 13th are approved. Moving on to the next agenda item, Triumph Energy, the Cobalt Group. Is there a member of Triumph here? Could you come up and identify yourself?
Yes, my name is Scott Bowles, and I represent the Triumph Energy.
You have a presentation for us today?
I don't. I wasn't aware that I needed to present,
Okay.
but I could answer any questions.
Dennis, do you wish to give us a brief on this?
Okay, so the background, actually what I kind of thought the commission should do first is vote on the shut-in status of the Triumph Energy number 1. This was an item that was tabled from the July 13th meeting and adjourned to this meeting. So the agenda item is properly phrased, and I recommend approval of shut-in status for the Triumph Energy number 1. That's easy to do, just get it out of the way.
Do you have any comments before we have a discussion on that item?
Yeah, I would say that we recently acquired seismic data, and it will be necessary for us to drill more wells and get more control out there so that we can know what to do. Triumph 1 still has a gas zone that we feel has potential, and with the seismic data we think that we can push that forward, but we just need more time to explore that option.
And you want to further test the Triumph number 1 for helium potential, right?
That's correct.
And you recall on the phone we talked about the need for a spacing exception hearing, just so you can do that. You understand?
Yes.
You've got to go through that. So
yes,
it was also my understanding that that's probably not the priority versus the other 4 wells you're interested in.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
just
that's
to
correct.
make sure that the commission understood that.
Is there any further discussion on this?
So we're specifically, the point of discussion now is the shut-in status.
Yes, do
That's
we
our
grant them
point.
shut-in
The
status?
seismic and everything is good to know, but we're actually talking on shut-in status. And Dennis, you're recommending
Shut-in status rather than temporary abandonment for Triumph Energy number 1. Shut-in status definition is that it has the potential to produce or has been producing and is temporarily stopped.
And I don't think if we talk, they can hear us.
And just for the record, where he's seeking shut-in status under R12-7125A.
Yes.
Thank you.
So do I have... Go ahead,
Do we
Dale.
need to be concerned about setting a time on that? Time limit?
Well, yeah, I was going to recommend 5 years, actually.
Any objection?
5 years shut-in rather than go year to year to year. It's just,
I agree with that.
If you want to resume whatever work you want to do before then, that's easy enough to do. As Rick was explaining, come before the commission and formally request to open it back up.
Right.
But I would recommend 5 years.
Yes. Yes.
Do we have a motion?
Gives you wiggle room as it is.
Yeah.
I move, this is Dale Nations, I move that we grant shut-in status on the Triumph Energy number 1 for a period of 5 years.
Do we have a second?
second.
All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say
Aye.
nay. Any abstentions? No. The motion carries. You have shut-in status on the number 1 for 5 years.
Thank you.
we have, Dennis, is there anything else that we need to consider here for Triumph? I know we were talking about a few other items, but...
Well, Cobalt has indicated to me, Cobalt is the parent group for the Triumph Energy number 1, and as the Cobalt group, they're interested in drilling 5 new wells. At this time, I don't know what their timeline is or their locations. I was going to let Mr. Bowles speak to details and plans for Cobalt's activities out there, and then depending on what he has to say, there may need to be a discussion in regards to the need for a public hearing. Applications need to be submitted to me for review. I pass the reviewed applications on to the commission for their review, and at that point we have a hearing. But I tried to write the agenda so that we can have as fluid of a discussion as possible to understand what Cobalt Group's intent and plan is for their 5 wells, other 5 wells.
Commissioner Nation?
I have a question. Previously, there was a map submitted by Cobalt Group showing leaseholds, and there was a question I had, and I can't find that map anymore, but there was a property to the south of a section that had a different lease name. Are those all part of the Cobalt Group? If so, that should be defined in the applications.
Yes, they are, yes. And we can define that better in those maps.
Okay.
Do you have anything you want to talk to us about with regard to those?
Yes. So we do have 5 new applications that we actually submitted to Dennis this morning. It was about an hour before this meeting. And we had the locations surveyed. And our primary objective is to stay as close as we can to the seismic lines that we acquired, seismic data. If we venture off too far off these seismic data lines, then that increases our drilling risk. And so due to that, we request an exception to the spacing rules for 4 of the 5 wells. And Dennis should have the permits in his email showing the locations of those wells. And that's our intent there. We control the leases around those sections. There are no offset operators. It's a wildcat area, and it's strictly to follow the seismic data.
You know, the lease map that Dr. Nation was talking about on the phone is not very legible, but it's on the screen. I can enlarge it if you'd like, but it shows your proposed location for one of your wells with the arrow, and I think you have the other location that's in small yellow dots there. Probably not too easy to read, but I think he was talking about the Jeffers Cattle Company lease. It does say lease on there. That means you've got the land tied up.
That's correct. Yes. And the green is state, Arizona State Trust land.
Now, is your applications that you gave me today, did you make some improvements to this map?
We did, yes. We actually made the text bigger, and you can see the well locations a lot easier.
Okay.
And in fact, we actually created a legend that distinguishes what we control, so that should be better defined.
Well, during the formal presentation you have, we'll have that on the screen. Just for general background for the commissioners and follow up on Dr. Nation's comment, I just thought I'd throw that up there. That's the sort of the for discussion only version that we had the conversation about whatever it was 5 days ago.
Yeah. Okay.
This is Bill. Can I ask a question now?
Certainly, Commissioner.
Okay. So the light green is state land that you have leased.
Mm-hmm.
Light blue is Jeffers Cattle Company that you have leased.
That's correct.
I'd like to see a map that goes at least one section further to the north too.
Okay.
So we can see where our field of view is not bounded to the north.
Okay.
Just to get a feel for the general setting of what you have leased and what who has what.
Okay.
So I'd like to see that as shift the map just a little bit so we can see in all directions what we're talking about and who your neighbors are.
Okay.
And your neighbors might be you, but it's good to know that.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
We can do that.
Great.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
The other thing is on the map, if you could show your proposed drill hole locations, but also it might take two maps where you zoom in on the section, but show the seismic traces, because that's part of your justification for requesting the variance, is you want to stay close to your data, which is, there's a logic there, but it'd be good to show this is where my data is, and this is where I want to drill.
Okay.
Okay?
Could we keep that confidential? The
Oh,
seismic
that's a
lines?
good point then. Okay, so Chairman or Council, could you address that?
Confidentiality, if it is something that you can make that request of Dennis, I believe, when the information comes in, correct, Dennis? In regards to confidentiality of information submitted. And if you're going to do that, then there will be discussion with Dennis if it's confidential or not.
Yeah, there's a form that I developed pursuant to a statute about confidentiality for oil and gas. I think there may need to be some further discussion whether that will apply or not. I'm not prepared to answer in detail that question right now because I wasn't sure whether it was going to be confidential issues or not. As I explained,
Just a second, Dale.
Okay.
As I explained on the phone with Mr. Clement and Mr. Bowles in more than one phone call, I think, generally anything that you submit to the state is public record. If you don't want it to be released to the public, you probably shouldn't submit it to us, but we need some evidence as to why you wanted to pick the well site where it is, some kind of geologic discussion, something saying seismic data that was run in the area indicates highs here, whatever. That I think in talking with Dr. Nations, that seems to be acceptable. We're not here to evaluate the veracity of your geologic interpretation, so we're not going to ask to see that seismic data and then argue with you whether the high is here or the high is here, that kind of thing. It's totally your call. But there has to be some kind of demonstration that you have a cogent argument for where you want to drill. But if you start submitting proprietary seismic data that you've purchased, hired a contractor to do, from the conversation that we had with you like a year ago, it seemed like we were tending towards saying that was going to be public record. It's really not clear to me, and I would like to have a separate discussion with Mr. Zeiss some other time about what that statute really means and how we fill out that form.
Okay.
To me, it's still not completely answered in my mind.
Commissioner Nations?
What were you thinking?
Yeah, I have an opinion on this. I agree with Dennis that it would be sensitive, to release information to the public if it could be necessary to be told confidential. So I agree with Dennis's analysis that if they do a better description of the seismic program without actually showing the lines that they want to keep confidential, then I would be okay with that. At least they defined the basis being on seismic data. That pretty much explains it.
Does your group have, Frank Thorwald, any equipment standing by to drill these, or what is your timetable on this?
That's a great question. We've actually got a drilling company lined up in October. And we'd like to beat the weather because we know it gets cold up there in November, December, January. So our goal is to begin as soon as we can, as soon as we get the permits approved. Not only do we have the rig lined up, but we have the other services, the geologist and the mud logger and all those services. So we'd like to begin as soon as possible.
Well, obviously we have to review everything before we can even have a hearing on it. Dennis, when is our next scheduled hearing?
The next scheduled regular meeting of the commission is the 26th of October.
See, we're getting up there.
Yeah. And in the applications that we submitted to Dennis today, we have a geological justification as to why we like to drill where we want to drill. And we feel like that should be sufficient. If it's not, we can provide more evidence.
Okay. Thank you.
I have one.
I got a question too.
Go ahead.
Joe Dixon with the State Land Department. So
What?
you realize the wells you're going to be drilling on state trust land, you have to clear through us too.
Yes, and we're working on that. I actually visited with Joe, was it last week, and learned that we need to submit a geologic surface plan, and we're working on that right now.
According to the map, if I'm reading this correctly, you have one on a private lease, the other three, the other 3 wells, other 4 wells are on state land.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
That's correct. We
So
actually
you wouldn't
have.
be able to start drilling if this was a perfect world. If you were able to start drilling today, you could only start drilling on the Jefferson lease. Their location looks like 3.
Mm-hmm.
You'd still have to be waiting on approvals from state land.
Yes.
Okay.
We always tell people basically give us at least a month because you have the archaeology surveys that have to be reviewed and cleared.
Okay.
It does take some time.
Yeah.
Commissioner Farber.
Yeah,
I have
okay.
another.
Just a second, Dale. You have one person ahead of you.
Okay.
Actually, 2 quick points is, one is just a question. Is the map trace of the seismic profiles privy information versus giving out the seismic profiles? You see what I'm getting at? Right there.
I would say yes, because if we.
That's fine. It's your.
Yeah.
Can you give out some kind of a thing that a seismic profile X feet away or something? Just sort of a little bit of feeling that you have justification for picking the site without giving.
Okay.
Okay. I'm just looking that. Really, what I'm looking for is you thought.
Right.
You
Thought it
use
through.
the noodle. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, these holes are to be drilled sequentially, correct?
Uh-huh.
You're not going to move 5 drills in and bam. How long would it take to drill each hole? More or less. I mean,
Yeah.
to the nearest 30 days or something.
I would say 2 of the wells we would drill down to about 2,500 feet.
Yeah.
The other 3 would be 4,000 feet.
And those translate time-wise into?
I would say 2,500 feet, maybe 3 to 4 weeks.
3. Okay.
4,000, a little bit more than that.
So
A few more
really,
weeks.
you're going to be working through the winter time no matter what. We're agreed you'd be working through
Yeah.
the winter time no matter
Right.
if it was a perfect world and you got your permits today,
Right.
you would still be working through the winter time.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Commissioner Nations, you had a comment.
Can you provide just a regional structure map on top of the Coconino or the Supai, for us to get a better idea of the structure of the area you're planning to drill?
Yes, we'd be glad to. Yeah.
So that if it's a regional structure map, there should be no confidentiality concern.
Okay. Yes, we can do that.
When is our next scheduled meeting, Dennis?
October 26th.
October 26th. I would, we need to table this until October 26th and have it on the agenda for a discussion and a possible vote at the time.
Okay, it would probably be a hearing in
Yeah.
addition to the regular meeting.
Yes.
Yes?
Okay.
That's a hearing on a well spacing exception, correct, Dennis?
Yes.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion on this
I do have
view?
one question. Are you planning any multiple zone completions?
It's possible. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
might ought to think about that in advance and throw that in there with it, so
Okay.
we can have these discussions all at once in one fell swoop on the 26th of October.
That's a great point. Yes, we'll do
I
that.
don't know if if you thought far enough ahead as how your completion plans are going to be. You're going to be trying to complete simultaneously in more than one horizon. If you're fortunate enough to find more than one horizon that's going to produce economically, if you really are pretty serious that's going to happen, we should try to work that into the hearing also for just a discussion. There's 3 separate sections of the rule: multiple zone completions, the spacing exception that we all know and love so well, and also the simultaneous completion rule. I can't remember what the exact section numbers are, but that last one, as far as how you're going to be completing things, you may not know that. But if, as you get closer, it suddenly dawns on you, and it seems very likely, I would say that we should have a conversation about that and include it in your application, so we can do that as part of the hearing.
It's a great point. We will do that. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other discussion on Triumph Cobalt Group? In that
I
case,
want to
yes.
make sure Dennis is free to be at that meeting.
The 26th?
Yeah.
Yeah, I will be.
He will be.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
The next item on the agenda 4 is Arizona Energy Partners on permit extension for AEP 2-1MS and 2-1NA permits.
Again, my name is Jamie Hogue. I'm here representing Arizona Energy Partners.
Jamie, can I stop you for just
Yes.
a minute? Those on the line, we can hear what you're saying, and it's interrupting our meeting. If you could mute your phones, please. Dale, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to people who are telephonically participating in this meeting. If you could put your phones on mute, please. Thank you, Jamie. So you may continue.
The two sundry notices that we submitted requesting APD extensions for the 2 wells. You'll notice that the permits for these wells were approved in April of 2017. I think, however, just changing in processes here, miscommunication between the Commission and AEP has resulted, as you know, last month, in July, we finally obtained a spacing exception request for the AEP 21MS. So we are asking for an additional year on these wells. The uncertainty behind not having the spacing exception requests, in my mind, kind of triggers we really haven't even begun, we didn't have the certainty to begin the process. Now that we do, we have a 3-well package. We'd like to proceed. I think I mentioned this in the last hearing. We began drilling the AEP 16-1, which is not the discussion here. Earlier this year, we backed off that well and went out and purchased a larger rig that has, I think it's rated to 14,000 feet. It would definitely be able to take on all 3 of the wells that we currently have pending before the Commission. While we've been waiting to seek approvals here, we've been able to obtain approvals in Utah and New Mexico to move much more quickly on other wells. So now we need some time to get back to these wells here in Arizona, and we're intending to deploy our rig into Utah in the upcoming month or so. They're not drilling activities. They're reworks, much shorter timeframes than drilling activities. But we would respectfully request a year extension on these APDs. And I'll also note, and I put this in the sundries, in the future, our spacing exception requests will be submitted with our APDs, so there won't be this delay. But this year's been a bit of a hiccup for us in trying to adapt and learn learn the processes that need to be utilized here at the Commission. So that is our request for those 2 wells.
Dennis, your comments?
I have no objection to extending the permit. I leave it to the Commission to discuss with the merits of another 6 months or another year. I have no opinion either way. I don't recommend against it, but I have no opinion either way.
Commissioner Nations, Commissioner Fireburn, any comments or discussion?
I recommend the approval to extend that for 1 year.
Is that a motion or a recommendation?
That was recommendation. Still under discussion.
Okay.
I'm fine with the extension.
I guess I would be concerned if would 1 year be adequate? I mean, the operators say it is, but we've found out sometimes in the past that more time is better.
Well, the Commission wanted to consider a time beyond the year. I will say we do have a lease on a yard in Farmington, so we have centralized our activities to one location. We have 2 rigs there now, drilling rigs. But as other operators can attest, it's sometimes difficult to get all the services you need to Arizona because of active oil and gas basins directly to our east. And the ability to schedule and bring in all of the necessary services can take time. I mean, it probably more so here than in other areas of the country, simply because we're not currently an active oil and gas state with a lot of activity. So I believe the estimates AEP has given me, it typically takes about two months to really line up everything you need. So once the decision is made to move here, at least 2 months would be needed to operationalize both the expertise and the services for the drilling activity.
Any other further discussion or motions?
Well, I'd just like to point out one thing. I don't know if I call this a precedent or not, but from the records I'm familiar with, the longest any operator has received an extension for drilling an undrilled well was, I believe, 3 years, and ultimately that expired. I believe Mr. Thorwell and I talked about that. It's been over a year ago. It was the Halfley #1 in the Kingman area. They got a total of 3 years, and it just appeared to me that the operator just wasn't ready to move forward. And in fact, I think I confirmed that in a conversation I had with him subsequently after it expired, and I returned his bond. So just keep that in mind before you vote.
Motion.
Is there a motion?
I move that we grant the extension for the permit extensions for the AEP 2-1MS and 2-1NA permits be extended for 1 year.
Is there a second or modification?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed say nay. No abstentions. The motion carries. You have your extension.
Thank you so much.
Moving on to item 5, report by the Oil and Gas Administrator. Dennis?
Okay. So the only thing that remains with the Copper Eagle, this is the Suncor, part of the Suncor bankruptcy, the Copper Eagle 119 is for the plug and abandon location to be recorded with the county recorder on the parcel it's located on. I have assurance from Mr. Bambauer, the responsible party for the 119, that they're going to do that. So there is no issue. I just updated the commission that we can consider it done probably within the next 60 to 90 days. In regards to the 1-24 well site, I paid a site visit out there to witness the running of the cement bond log. It was uneventful. I haven't heard what the results were from the cement bond log. The purpose of that cement bond log was to determine whether they needed to re-enter the well and do some more cementing to seal off all the formations to prevent cross communication between strata above the area where above the depth where they're going to be plugging. And I haven't heard the results of the cement bond log. I know that they re-entered the well again this past Tuesday of this week and set the plug, which is fine. I wasn't able to get out there to witness that, but that's done. So the next step would be for them to let me know. I've asked the consultant to confirm what the results of the cement bond log are, so I'm expecting I would hear from that before they will be going out there to do the actual cement job. And then after that, the only other thing is to record the location. I have got the name and address, responsible party of who is responsible for the Copper Eagle 1-24, which it is Merit Partners. And so I'm asking today for the commission to vote to approve that so we can move forward.
Excuse me, sorry, so I understand. So what you're looking for a motion is the 1-24 well?
Yeah, the Copper Eagle 1-24, which is the responsible party is Merit Partners. At the last meeting that we discussed this, I did have that information, and it was recommended by one of the commissioners to table the requirement for recording with the county recorder for this well specifically. The 119 you guys already approved.
So Dennis, specifically, what are you looking for with regard to a vote on Merit Partners?
the requirement that Merit Partners record the location of the plug and abandoned well of the Copper Eagle 1-24 using the GPS coordinates that their surveyor, their hired surveyor will provide with the Maricopa County recorder. And just submit evidence of that to the commission when they've done that.
Part of our previous discussions.
Part of our previous discussions, just one more review point would be that these two wells were stratigraphic tests to see how thick the Luke salt body was, and were drilled way back in the early 2001 time frame. There is active development out there. Merit Partners is actually the developer that owns that property now. We gave them a waiver for the permanent surface marker, and instead said that there should be a marker at 10 feet depth with brightly colored dye, so that if there's any digging out there in the future, they'll discover that there's something down there. And the fact that it's recorded with the county recorder further documents its existence. So all that's been discussed and approved earlier this year by the commission.
Yes, I remember that. Commissioners, is there any discussion on this? Further discussion? Do I have a motion to approve this and direct Dennis to take this forward?
I'll do it unless Bill's getting tired of it.
No, go ahead. You're good at motions.
Oh, I move that the operators of the Copper Eagle 1-24 well submit to the Maricopa County Recorder the GPS coordinates provided by the Merit Partners for this well.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Actually, before we vote on that, may I suggest a clarification? Mr. Nations indicated it was the operator. I think we would probably want to designate that it's Merit Partners Incorporated rather than calling them the operator.
I agree with that correction.
So would you modify your motion?
I move that we require the Merit Partners must submit GPS locations to the on the Copper Eagle 1-24 well to the Maricopa County Recorder.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any nays? Motion carries. Dennis, the next item.
Oh, permit activity, we all pretty much already discussed that, and that has to do with the Cobalt Group's interest in getting 5 new well locations approved. I haven't had any other feedback that any other permits will be forthcoming. I've had dialogue with Rare Earth, but they're still considering their options, and I haven't heard from anyone else. Bond release requests may be coming from 2 parties. The Vision Energy 32-1 was an old location that was never drilled. Vision Energy was actually a company that was owned by Praxair. Praxair is an air or a gas transportation company that actually Ranger uses to transport their processed helium from their well sites. Vision has decided that they don't want to drill it. Another party stepped forward to get an application for the exact same site, which I gave an approval for. They paid their performance bond, but there is an outstanding performance bond that needs to be returned to Vision Energy. I've contacted Vision Energy with a suggestion of how to go about getting their bond back, and they haven't responded, so I may have to contact them again with a more formal letter, because this is a performance bond that the commission owes payback to the return to the operator. So I'm still trying to nudge them in the right direction. Arizona Public Service, APS, has perhaps half a dozen geothermal type wells that they've drilled in the past for testing, and there seems to be some confusion on their part as well as on my part as to who holds the bond. It's complicated because it's tied up with Suncor and its bankruptcy and how APS and Pinnacle West interacted with that in regards to who has the bond. And I'm only letting the commission know that this is out there and that discussion is being had. Michelle Robertson of APS has looked at all the well files that APS for permits that they've been issued in the past, but I haven't heard from her as to what they're going to proceed. So the ball, in my opinion, is in their court. But I suspect that we'll be having more discussion in future commission meetings about this. And certainly with Mr. Thorwald and Mr. Zeiss in between meetings as communications as I've received them, whatever. I'm scheduled to go to Top Corp training. Top Corp Energy is a company that provides training to the regulators that work in the oil and gas industry for different state governments. That's scheduled from October 8th to 12th in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's a training that is paid for by third parties to send government employees from various states in various oil and gas commissions for training. So I'll be going to that. There's 3 days of online training that are required before that, so I'm in the middle of trying to complete that before the October 8th departure.
Thank you, Dennis. The item about needs of the administrator, we'll just table that to our next meeting.
Okay.
The item number 6, the AZOGCC Scourge peer review. We have met with them, and that is moving forward in an effective manner, and they will give us their reports on a phased basis. So that is all in place and moving forward. Dennis, any additional comments, or Dale, that you want to make on that, or for that matter, anybody?
No, I'm really pleased that the AZOGCC is going to take that on.
Very good. Okay, and hearing no others, let's move on. Report by the administrator. I have nothing additional to report at this point. Moving on to item 8, legislation affecting the Arizona Oil and Gas Conservation Commission. Dennis?
Just a brief update in regards to the Department of Environmental Quality's seeking a primacy for the underground injection control program, which is currently managed by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. The stakeholder meetings have come and gone. These were stakeholder meetings for feedback from potential affected parties, stakeholders, if ADQ is successful in obtaining primacy for the UIC program. So what ADQ is doing now is starting to prepare a rule package. They've invited the Oil and Gas Commission to participate, so I will be having meetings and giving them feedback, input where appropriate, and I'll keep the board apprised of developments and progress. One other thing that has come to my attention just this week after this agenda was published is that the Department of Agriculture's Forest Service sent an email saying they published an advance notice of proposed rulemaking in the Federal Register to start the process of revising their Forest Service oil and gas resource regulations, which is 36 CFR Part 228, Subpart E, and they're soliciting comments. They would like their preliminary. They would like any preliminary comments submitted to them by 15th of October, and they provide links for how to do that, and so on and so forth. I wondered if the Commission wanted me to submit comments in regards to that.
I would send us all a copy of it and let us review it.
Okay.
Any other discussion on this, commissioners? Hearing none, let's move. Go ahead, Commissioner Nation.
No, I was just going to say, no, I'm satisfied with that discussion.
Okay, very good. Moving on to item 9, call to the public. Is there anybody that wishes to make any comments to the commission?
Frank, I got one. This is Joe Dixon with the State Land Department, kind of on behalf of the BLM.
Joe, come on over here so Dale can hear you better.
Oh, okay. Hey, Dale.
Hi, Joe.
Anyway, the BLM held a what they call a federal lease sale last Thursday in the morning. Did it kind of a new online system. They had 3 tracts up for bid, totaling about 4,200 acres, and they only got successful bids or any bids on 2 of the parcels there. So those are all up in the Holbrook area, right around Petrified Forest National Park, connected, of course, with the helium play going on up there. So I know the applications are actually put in by a group called Permits West, which is a consulting firm out of Santa Fe, New Mexico, that does a lot of the work for the companies up in that area there, and not really sure who they were representing. I've got some ideas, but don't really want to say who they were backing that for. That was it.
Yeah. Thank you, Joe.
I'm not sure if the folks on the line were aware of whether they could comment now.
I'm already. Is there anybody else that wishes to make public comment? Okay. Moving forward to item 10, Blackstone Exploration Company. On this, I think we'll probably be going into executive session. Is there any motions to take us into executive session on this?
I move that we go into executive session.
I'll second that motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 We are in executive concession, so that means the...
Can we? So how is it?
We're up.
Okay, review. We're on item 11, review and consider future agenda items. As we discussed previously, we want to have revise one of our some of our rules with regard to speakers. So we want that on our agenda the next time out, and we want to have Blackstone, not Blackstone, but Triumph and their piece on our next agenda item as well.
And my suggestion for Triumph, as we put on the agenda, subject to whether we have the permits, right, Dennis?
Yeah, but they didn't.
But they're going well spacing and multiple zones.
There was recommendations from the 2 geologists on the commission for additional information.
Okay.
The lease maps, and so actually it makes it a little problematic for me whether I should even accept them as complete applications today, to be honest with you. I need to talk that over with them.
Okay.
There's no real hurry on that. They probably got a good month before they get anything done with us here, too.
Yeah, and if they're really hot to try to give it to me today, unfortunately, I'm not going to start reviewing it until I get back from all the other activities I got going on. So I need to talk to them. I don't know if they're still here or not.
No,
they wanted to hand to me the hard copy documents, and I wanted to talk to them about, in light of the fact that there's actually recommendation for more information to be submitted with a complete application. Should I even really accept the application?
I would accept the application and then indicate to them we've accepted application subject to you providing the following.
Well, it'll be, I'd turn it right around and say it's an incomplete application.
Okay, that's your choice.
Okay. That's how.
And you must please provide the following.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Another quick question. The next time they come in, though, we're looking at both well spacing, exception, multi-zone.
Yes.
That was my
I
understanding.
would assume so. If they were.
Okay. Next.
One other item on that with respect to that that we did for the other helium company. Given the number of wells they're planning on drilling, we might want to talk about, see if they want to present something to us about a plan that allows them to drill in a number of different areas.
Oh, the like we did
about the 40-acre plan that Ranger.
Yeah, I was going to say the Ranger plan.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the map that I had up there, those different colored blocks were square miles.
Yeah, those are pretty far apart.
40-acre blocks, and they're scattered across many miles.
It looks like they're sitting all right next to a fault.
I think, this is Dale. I think the plan would be for them, those, like they say, these are wildcat wells, and let them go ahead and drill those 5, and then if they find the need, let's say they have a plan like we did with Ranger to justify closer spacing, then we considered it at that time.
All I was thinking about was just letting them know that that's a possibility and for them to consider it.
Yeah, well,
that's all.
that could be done, certainly.
Dennis, did you have some announcements you were going to make?
Well, since the meeting is not adjourned yet, and during the course of this meeting, I've received an email from Kevin Aber, the consultant for Merit Partners, who is the responsible party overseeing the plug and abandonment of the Copper Eagle 1-24, and he reports to me that in fact the cement bond log does show a good cement bond from the cement bond log, and therefore they're proceeding with the rest of the plugging operations. There's really no further input from me. He got an expert's analysis from, I think, Mr. Catalano himself. That it's a good cement job, which is what they expected, but we the commission wanted them to confirm that because there is no cement bond log in the well file. That's right. So I just wanted to kind of close the loop on that because I left it a little open earlier in the meeting because I hadn't heard anything, but
Are they going to
meeting I've heard from that, so that just to close the loop on that.
Are they going to forward the cement bond log to us for our review?
I think he had it in the email that was the attachment.
Good. Okay. Anything else?
Was there anything else, Dennis?
89141143.
Dale, you still with us?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm getting a call on my landline that it's a bunch of junk, so I'm just going to let it ring.
Item 12, announcements. Is there any announcements? You're not moving to Oklahoma
No, I am.
Oh.
We actually have a brand new mineral section manager.
in 2030?
30, yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
I move for adjournment.
Second? All in favor, say aye.
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 We're adjourned.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.